Hello everybody, this is Hero back with another Dragonflight video. Happy New Year's to all of you guys. I have been taking a little bit of a break, hanging out with family, all that good stuff. And I wanted to come back with a bit of a meme, something I've been playing around with. I've been playing a little bit of Resto Shaman, just getting a healer going for Mythic Plus to pair alongside my Rogue, since most of my Mythic Plus stuff is just Rogue gameplay. But I took a small break from doing some healing as I get this 70 rolling to try out an Enhancement Shaman build. And today I'm going to show you a bit of footage, do a little commentary about the gameplay associated with this specific build. Before I do that, let me just show you what it is. I'm calling it Grease Lightning after that famous John Travolta flick because we are foregoing two very important pieces of the build that we're used to seeing in Mythic Plus for Enhancement Shaman, specifically Lava Burst and Elemental Blast, meaning our spenders are going to be Chain Lightning for the majority and then Lightning Bolt in single target. And it's a Thorim's Invocation build alongside all of the other physical stuff, so Doom Winds and then your physical dogs, your Alpha Wolf. Essentially, the gameplay is very compressed or streamlined in most of your Mythic Plus pulls. You're going to try your best to proc through DRE or Deeply Rooted Elements your Ascendance. And when Ascendance goes off, Thorim's Invocation is going to cast or spend your Maelstrom whenever you hit Stormstrike, essentially. So the gameplay is pretty straightforward. When you get into a pack, you're going to go for your dogs, put your Doom Winds down, and then you're going to go between your three main buttons, which is Stormstrike, Chain Lightning, and then filling out with casts of Crash Lightning. You can see here I got a cast of it. So we're getting some procs here. I'm just pressing my Stormstrike button essentially over and over again. All of these pieces together are cooling down our dogs really quickly due to the nature of how dogs work. When you gain Maelstrom weapon stacks, you're going to get dogs back. And a lot of the pieces in this build give you back Maelstrom weapon stacks, including when I get Ascendance. So here I'm getting Ascendance off. I'm pressing Stormstrike and dogs is cooling down as a result. Here's another one. The interesting thing about DRE is it's completely random. So the only way to get it is by pressing Stormstrike or Windstrike, and there's no cooldown on it. There's no RPPM for it. It's just random. So I got kind of lucky there for the demo, which is nice. So I can show you what the breakdown looks like. I'm in 368 gear with 343 weapons, and this is a common breakdown you'll see with Spirit Bomb, some Chain Lightning damage, and Wind Fury attack quite high. I tried this build trying to take advantage of a few of the other Stormstrike pieces like Converging Storms and splitting between Elemental Assault and Legacy of the Frost Witch. And I think the build I've settled on that makes the most sense for all of Mythic Plus is to take Ice Strike and Swirling Maelstrom and to put 2 points in Legacy of the Frost Witch. And the reason for that is our intake of Maelstrom weapon stacks is pretty good, so we don't need to throttle it anymore with Elemental Assaults. And also in the single target portion, as you'll see in the dungeon footage, Ice Strike is a really nice filler because it gives you essentially 2 strong GCDs to press while you're waiting for other things to come back. So if you don't have a lot of haste, in the single target portions of dungeons, you will have some open GCDs. And so I do use Lightning Lasso, and in the dungeon footage I have in a second, I don't have Ice Strike, so you'll see me just casting some Frost Shocks in between. But as soon as you can get yourself, if you get somewhere like 40% haste, guys, this build is crazy because you have CD on your Stormstrike. Things like Storm Flurry are going to give you resets on your Stormstrike through Stormbringer. And there's lots of other interactions like that. The dogs are going to be doing a ton of damage in AoE. You're going to get them back. They're going to produce Maelstrom weapon stacks. Thorim's itself is going to produce or Ascendance itself is going to produce Maelstrom weapon stacks. All of these pieces are very interesting. So let's take a look at the video. Just refresh it here. And just a reminder, I'm using a slightly different talent setup, but that's only just missing essentially the Ice Strike portion. But I'll do a little bit of a commentary on what I'm thinking about as I go through the dungeon and the gameplay I'm trying to manage. So as we open here, I'm just looking to set up my AoE. So I'm waiting till everything gets piled up, and then I'm going to use Dogs into Sundering and into Crash Lightning. And then I just want to do my best to spend Maelstrom weapon stacks and press Stormstrike as much as possible. You can see I lightly lassoed there. I think I was just trying to CC something. That's something I sort of use throughout the dungeons just in general. Most of the time we just take the knock up for Thunderstorm so that we don't blast things away, but we still CC them. But I just wanted to try as a filler taking Lasso for the dungeon fight. So again, Dogs is up. We're just pressing Stormstrike as much as we can while in packs, and then clearing our stacks at 10 with Chain Lightnings. So this Hunter, I believe, is 385 or something like that. And again, we're around 365 or 368 in this dungeon footage. And I was pretty surprised, guys. It runs very smooth. It's completely streamlined in AoE, which means that between pressing Stormstrike or Chain Lightning or Crash Lightning, you are GCD capped in all AoE content and all cleave content. So if there's 2 targets or 2 to 3 targets, you're basically GCD capped. There's sometimes an open GCD every once in a while, and I'm using a bit of Nature Swiftness to help deal with that. You can see here, this is a moment where we get to the single target portion, or if you have a priority ad that's really heavy in a dungeon, where your Ice Strike is going to help with a few of those GCDs. We come to the boss, and again, I'm just getting Wind Fury down, which I think is essential for this build, by the way. Wind Fury Totem itself is not that awesome in dungeon, generally speaking, because most of our builds, like the Trinity build, where we have all 3 fire damage, ice damage, and nature damage, those kinds of builds don't really need Wind Fury Totem. But this build itself really benefits from it because our storm strikes are going to, resets are very important. So anything we can do to have passive buttons that are going off to reset us, i.e. main hand hits from a Wind Fury Totem proc, are going to be beneficial. Here, the one note I just want to make on the boss is, you can see there we just blasted a lot of damage, is we probably want to maintain Chain Lightning casts so that if Ascendance procs on that boss fight, our wind strikes will Chain Lightning those adds. I know it's a little bit of a damage loss in the single target, but swapping back and forth between pressing Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning doesn't actually necessarily afford you as much time as you think, meaning you don't get as much uptime on Chain Lightning casts, and it can be awkward if the adds are spawning and you have to spend a whole GCD casting another Chain Lightning while you're in Wind Strike, and it's shooting out lightning bolts, but you really want it to shoot out Chain Lightning bolts. I don't know if that makes sense, but just be aware that it might be better just to maintain Chain Lightnings throughout that fight. But here in these packs, I'm just looking for things to stun and kick, and also I'm just working on rotations. So we Doom Winds. We want to get Doggos out, and then we want to splash our damage with Storm Strikes. But you can just see below my character the Maelstrom weapon intake. Unfortunate time to get our proc, but nevertheless, we just use it when we can. But you can see that the intake is pretty high for Maelstrom weapon stacks in AoE. We never really have a significant problem. I can basically press Stormstrike every GCD as we go into packs, and I can hold things like Frost Shock for after. I am prioritizing getting Wind Fury Totem down in general, so you'll see it goes down even in AoE. Maybe that's incorrect, I'm not totally sure, but my suggestion to you is that it's actually far more important because of how many times we want to press Stormstrike. So that's kind of why we're doing it. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit to the boss fight here. get through some of these packs. You can see we're doing pretty reasonable damage. I'm not unhappy with it at all at this gear level. And here we have the boss fight. So here I'm thinking about when the ad's going to come out, and then we're going to swap over. So I think I kick the ad and just cleave damage. So you don't need to do a lot of damage in a, what is this, a +2 or something. Now here I'm away from the boss, so I proc dogs, I lasso to get close, and then I immediately cancel it with Stormstrike. And that's the main usage for lasso that I found in the dungeons, is you get lots of good opportunities to use it to close gaps, to use it to maybe stun and add, to use it as a complete filler rotation when you're waiting for Stormstrike to come back. But as I've added Ice Strike into the rotation, I found the need for lasso is, less and less. So again, for those of you who are thinking about a more flexible build or a less clunky build when you get to the single target portions, I would recommend doing the Ice Strike build that I was showing you at the beginning. It doesn't take anything away from the AoE that we're offering, and it really doesn't impact the build too much. I think we're dropping like one or two pieces that are not really relevant, like Feral Lunge, perhaps, something like that. You can see here we're getting pretty good damage, and we don't even really have a proc going right now, doing the same basic idea. It's sort of like a single target rotation if you know Outlaw Rogues. So instead of having to tab target and Lava Lash to cleave Flame Shocks and then doing Novas, or get stacks for Hailstorm and casting Frost Shocks and cleaving that, you can essentially focus on a very single target oriented rotation and just use Chain Lightning as your filler. So I like the simplicity of it overall. You'll see here as we move towards the boss, I think I die a few times on this boss fight, but we're somewhere around 40k overall DPS in this gear. This is one of those bosses that's a little awkward because we get pushed around a lot, and I think I die, and I die right here trying to get back up. But you don't have to be like me and be a meme. You can manage your own positioning and do a little bit better. But being away from a boss does make a difference. So we have less tools in this build for dealing with being away from a boss. You can refresh Flame Shocks, and if you had Feral Lunge, you could press it. But anyways, this is the main breakdown that I was looking at as I completed the dungeon. And with the changes that I made, if I'll just go back to the main game here, the changes that I made to the build make it so that we have a little bit more physical damage. So over the course of a boss fight, you'll get more physical damage, which includes most of our abilities. If you look at some of the breakdown, things like Wind Fury Attack, Stormstrike, the melees from your wolves, Wind Strikes, all of that goes up. I think I have a couple of dummy examples in single target. Nope. Maybe this is it. Yeah, there's your single target, what it looks like. So there's a lot of physical damage coming out from Wind Fury weapon. And this is all amplified by this talent. So it's a little bit better since we don't need as many Maelstrom weapon stacks due to using things like Ice Strike to fill the gaps. So I didn't have both points into Legacy for that dungeon. I have one in Elemental Assault and one in Legacy. I would recommend this setup in general. It's still fine on AoE. In fact, it's going to be more damage in AoE because your Spirit Bomb will do more damage. And it's just much better for a single target, especially paired with these. Anyways, kind of fun to just test out some new stuff. Think about other classes. I'll be back on Sub Rogue, I'm sure, soon. I should be posting some more Resto Shaman stuff since I don't really intend to do a lot of Enhance Shaman gameplay. I just want to try out this really weird build. Since most people are playing a Trinity build, which includes, things like Hailstorms or Fire Nova and going down here. Most people are playing Primordial Wave, so you're cleaving lightning bolts. Almost everybody's playing at least Lava Burst, and then sometimes Alley Blast. very few people are taking Thorim's Invocation into Mythic Plus. So I thought I'd make a video just outlining what I think is interesting about it. And the main takeaway for me is it's a very simplified gameplay. It's very, very good on GCDs, and it feels like a single target rotation like an Outlaw Rogue, but from an Enhanced Shaman. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and we will catch you again next time.